Hello, everybody. This is Jacob Stoops, Senior SEO Manager at Search Discovery, and we are back with episode number 58 of the Page 2 podcast. So we're getting dangerously close to halfway through season 3. And of course, I am joined by Mr. Jeff Luella, Senior Technical. And Jeff, I think I mess your title up just about every time. Technical SEO at the Wirecutter from the New York Times. Last episode, I remember that I said the Wirecutter New York Times division or something weird like that. And I was like, that's not right.
Yeah,
so,
it's all good anyway. Hey, howdy, hey. No, yeah, I think it's officially Senior Technical SEO Product Manager. I just say Tech SEO. That makes it a lot shorter.
So it's funny at Search Discovery, and this is a funny thing about titles. All of our titles at one point last year were switched to, instead of like our specific discipline, our official title within the company was in marketing, which just made marketing. So like, really, I'm a senior marketing manager, but because I'm within the SEO discipline, I just put on my LinkedIn, I'm an SEO manager. Yeah. That's kind of what I do, and nobody has asked me to to change it yet. So
unless they sent you new business cards,
right? Change. Yeah, and then it's official. So we were talking, before we jumped on, and I do want to introduce our guest. This is going to be an awesome episode, and we actually have some carryover stuff from last episode. But Jeff has somehow procured a Screaming Frog sweatshirt, and look at that. Nice, beautiful Screaming Frog sweatshirt. And our guest also has one. So I am the only one left out. So Screaming Frog, if you happen to be listening to this podcast, you're killing me, man. Come on. Where's the love?
You needed to get on the post. They had the first 100 on the post. Yeah.
I feel like I did when it came out, but I guess I'm just wasn't one of the first 100.
I'm
not one of the cool kids. All right. So now that I'm not one of the cool kids, let's bring on one of the other cool kids in this episode. So we're bringing on Claire Carlile, owner of Claire Carlile Marketing. Welcome, Claire.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
How are you doing this fine morning?
I am very well. Very well, thank you. Very excited to be here.
Yes, and Claire, how did you procure your Screaming Frog sweatshirt?
Mostly from moaning and shouting very loudly on Twitter about not having one, and then Screaming Frog pointing out I hadn't actually taken part in whatever you had to do to get one. And then it was lovely Tim who said, I'm moving house, you can have mine if you want. And so I had Tim's. Thank you, Tim.
All right. So if there's anybody out there that just happens to be moving that wants to give me their Screaming Frog sweatshirt, I'll take it worn as well. Or I'm just going to have to go print my own. I'll just get your logo and I'll print my own so I can pretend to be with the in crowd. But I just wonder
you need one of those Cricut machines.
Right. Well, yeah. If I put up a picture, is Screaming Frog going to call me out for like, hey, you weren't on our list. That's a fake sweatshirt. Yeah, they're gonna.
Toad. You have a picture of a toad instead, or something.
Yeah. It'll be like what is it when you go to New York City and you've got those street merchants selling you kind of the knockoff glasses or whatever. That's
shouting toad.
Yeah. Shouting toad. All right, there we go. All right, so for those of you, so again, as we mentioned just about every week, we realize we are a small and very niche podcast. We're growing and we're very happy about that, but we do have a lot of first-time listeners, and we've been brick by brick kind of building our audience, and that has continued in season 3. So if you are one of those longtime listeners, we really appreciate you. Thank you so much for listening. We're very humbled and very feeling very grateful, especially this time of year, that we've been able to put a podcast out there that people like, because one of the things when I had first started the podcast is like, are people even going to want to listen to what I have to say? And the good news is at least a small number of people are going to want to listen. So that's good. For those of you that are just discovering this podcast, let me give you like the elevator pitch for what our podcast is about. So if you're looking for an SEO podcast and looking for advice, that's not necessarily the core focus of our podcast. We do that. We bring on amazing guests who've had amazing experiences, and we definitely tell a lot of stories about different things that we've kind of gone through, and we do touch on recommendations. But we are not the Neil Patel or Brian Deans of the world. God bless them. I know people have some extreme opinions about those those types of characters, and I don't want to like say anything about Neil. I actually tend to like what Brian Dean does, but we're never going to claim to have literally all the answers. And sometimes other experts in podcasts, they do come off a little bit that way. That being said, kind of the way that we're unique is kind of we flip that on its head, and we actually turn our focus inwards, and we focus more on the people behind the strategy. SEO is not necessarily something that is taught properly, at your traditional educational institutions in your universities. So people tend to come from all walks of life, and through 58 episodes, we've found that to be true. Now, we've seen some commonalities as we've talked to more and more people, but for the most part, people fall into it. And we think that those stories are honestly really, really amazing. And it's always very interesting to see kind of how people fall into the SEO profession. And it's really about telling those stories and get an understanding of who people are, what experiences they've had. Especially lately, we've focused a lot on talking about diversity and how we can improve the diversity in our industry. And that, of course, is very important. But you don't, in my opinion, like you can't learn how to improve diversity without understanding what's happened and why people have felt that way and what situations they've been in their career. Those types of things. So that's what we're all about. We're all about kind of sharing the quote unquote war stories of SEO, what happens behind the scenes. We do drop knowledge from time to time, so you will get some of that. But our focus is more on the people and their experiences. So that being said, before we kind of dive into Claire's superhero origin story, we do want to do our live read. So we've been doing this for a couple of weeks, and that live read has to do with an organization called United Search. So here we go. So are you looking to break into the SEO conference speaking, but not sure how? Are you feeling that you are not well represented within the current SEO speaking circuit and want to change that? We at the Page 2 podcast would like to take the opportunity to let users know about United Search, a new organization and first of its kind SEO speaker accelerator dedicated to ending the implicit bias in SEO that keeps BIPOC, LGBTQIA+, and women in the margins of our industry. Their credo is diverse SEO equals better SEO, and we are huge believers in that. United Search offers mentoring advice from people with real-world practical SEO experiences in order to give students the skills they need to be able to deliver an amazing presentation on any stage and the network they need to land gigs, all at no cost to the students. How does this work? Well, it's pretty simple. United Search connects a cohort of the best pitches they can source with the top mentors in their subject matter. After working with their mentors to develop their talk, they will host a live stream event where students get to present to SEO experts and receive positive, constructive feedback. Graduates of this SEO accelerator will get the benefit of top-notch mentorship, public speaking training, a video reel, lots of positive feedback, as well as a foot in the door to help find and land speaking gigs, and access to an amazing community of SEO professionals. What does this mean for our podcast? As a sponsor and advocate, we're committed to regularly showing stats that illustrate our commitment to diversity on this podcast, and we've made a pledge to diversify, meaning that 60% of our guests will come from underrepresented groups, including women, BIPOC, BAME, LGBTQIA+, as well as representation for people with disabilities and those who are 55 and older. If this sounds of interest to you, visit unitedsearch.org to learn more about becoming a student or mentor, or visit them on Twitter at search_united. All right, am I getting better every week with that read? I think I only had 2 slip-ups that time. I think maybe in a couple of weeks it'll be down to nothing, and I'm going to retire. Jeff's going to take over the podcast from here on out, and I'll be working my first radio gig.
I'm just going to be cutting that same over and over. Like, I'm not going to read it. So
yeah.
No, I'm also excited because I'm almost in that 55 plus range. So.
Exactly. There we go.
I get that demographic.
Hey, we are actually going to be, instead of 60%, it's going to be 100% once Jeff kind of gets into that age range.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's closer than I'd like it to be.
Oh, all right. So let's take the focus off of us for a second. We've been talking too much about ourselves. And Claire, the people have come and they want to know about you. So tell us about yourself and share with us your origin story.
Ooh, where shall I start? Shall I start where I am now?
Yeah, were you ever bitten by a radioactive spider? And if so, how did that? What superpower do you have?
No, that didn't happen. That never happened. We'll origin story where in terms of where I am now. What did I do? I grew up. That was a thing. And then I went to university. I trained as a primary school teacher. So that was 4 years. And then I went into teaching and found that I didn't dig children that much. So it wasn't perhaps the best career choice. I was living in London. I used to like rock climbing a lot. So I came to Pembrokeshire in West Wales, and then fell in love with the man, and then moved here. And then I didn't want to be a teacher. So I ended up selling ice creams on the beach, doing lots of little odd jobs and bits and bobs. And then I ended up working at an adventure centre. So that was probably, I think, my awakening in terms of marketing, going into that business and doing all the things with the people. So I used to direct sell, then I used to welcome people, and then I used to host people. And then it was like, oh, I'm doing all the parts of the process, and now I need to sort out the website, and now I need to do the marketing. And that's where it all started, really. I think that sort of involvement in small businesses and all parts of a small business. And that's when I fell in love with marketing, and then into SEO. And then I didn't have a marketing background, so I did a master's in marketing. And then I decided that I wanted to work with lots of small businesses on their marketing. And then I sort of fell in love with SEO and local SEO.
So this is 2 weeks in a row that we've had guests involved specifically with ice cream.
Yeah, and local SEO.
And it's an obvious partnership, really, isn't it? I think.
And I'm just going to go buy the domain Ice Cream and SEO.
Okay,
That's a new podcast. New podcast. There we go.
Do it.
What's your, to take you back to your ice cream days? What was your favorite flavor? Gotta ask that.
Well, it's very specific to here. It's called Celtic Crunch.
What is Celtic Crunch?
Celtic
that sounds
Crunch
amazing.
has got it's sort of like caramelly with bits of honeycomb in it and raisins. So I guess it's a sort of Welsh Pembrokeshire flavour.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah, I guess
if you come to visit, I would buy you an ice cream.
All right. So I don't think a U.S. passport gets us anywhere these days. So
no one's going anywhere. We'll just have to have a virtual ice cream party.
I'll imagine it. Yeah, I guess if I were to close my eyes and imagine Celtic Crunch, and I'm not trying to be facetious, and I say this because Dublin, Ohio, which is where I live, is the second biggest Irish, and I'm associating Celtic with Irish, so I don't know if that's an improper association. But
yeah,
Dublin,
they fall under some umbrella somewhere, but Welsh people are very Welsh, so yeah.
well, yeah. See, I definitely am, being from the U.S., do not understand kind of those local idiosyncrasies. But I'm just imagining Celtic Crunch. And I'm thinking, and I live very close to Dublin, Ohio, which has the second largest Irish, and it's a massive, like several million person event that happens every year. Not last year, it was canceled, but in non-COVID times, it's an amazing celebration of general Irishness. And so I close my eyes, and I'm imagining like a green ice cream. Maybe it tastes like I don't know, mint chocolate chip, which is also my favorite ice cream. Maybe some gold flakes, but that's just so stereotypical. So I'm sure some people are going to be offended and just going to want to come punch me in the face saying that.
we can make that one for you. I think that's like that sounds like a good ice cream.
Well, Amanda can make it for us since she's the ice cream maker.
Yeah,
she's got the skills by the sound of it.
Homemade ice cream. Cool. So what's it like? So you got your 4-year degree in teaching, and then you did teaching for a while. And I will share, my wife is a teacher, and she's been doing that. She got her master's in education, and she's been kind of in the field now for I think it's 12 years in classroom, and now she's a curriculum coach for 2 years, and it's not an easy job. And she has a lot of friends also in the teaching profession. And I'm going to tell you, it is not uncommon for teachers to get out of the profession because it is a difficult, and I don't know what it's like, across the pond in terms of how teachers are compensated versus what they are asked to do. But every day of the week, I would say that Gina, my wife, her job is way harder than mine. And I get paid a lot more than she does. And it's just, and I'm going to drop it, it's a fucking travesty because she works so much, especially when she was an in-home, or not in-home, I'm sorry, a classroom teacher. She would do her work during the day. And I don't know what grades you taught, but she's been at kindergarten and first grade. So God bless her. Those kids barely, they're good kids, but they barely know even how to go to school, let alone acting like students. And she actually taught inner city for most of her career. So you can imagine some of the problems that kind of come along with that. But man, she worked 10 times harder than me in my stupid marketing job. But for whatever reason, society seems to value people doing marketing things more in terms of compensation. And I think it's a travesty. So yeah, that's my, I don't know. What was your experience like outside of maybe not liking the little ones? What was your experience?
Maybe like? It's not really fair to kids to say I didn't like kids. It was more
some kids.
In my mind, like the system is broken. I think now I'm a parent myself, I've thought very differently about how I feel about these things. But, teachers are so important in terms of like, these are the formative years of our children's lives. These are, we're shaping little human beings that will go on to do all the things in the world. And so no, it's hard. It's a really hard job. It's not resourced enough. It's not, you're not compensated enough. And it's not yet. I would like to have a little school where children like skip around in the woodland and make mud pies and just, I don't know, all of that. It'd be a little hippie school or something. But I'm very grateful that for my child's teachers and for the dedicated teachers that we do have. It's just not for me. It's not for me.
Yeah, I'm from a family of teachers, and my oldest brother went. Graduated college, became a teacher, was about 6 years into it and just called it quits. And I think he went into it thinking he could change the world, and then went in there and just realized that like middle school kids are not the nicest kids.
Yeah, so, they're having a challenging time themselves, aren't they?
Oh, exactly. Yeah. So he ended up leaving, and ended up trekking out towards Seattle, Washington, and now works for University of Washington. Not as a teacher, just like as some sort of, behind the scenes person there, but loves it way better. I think it's just, he's on people that are more on his level,
Yeah.
that are a little older and have goals in life, and you're not like herding cats at that same time.
Yeah. So one of our close friends went from being a teacher to a financial advisor, which is like just so like they don't even compute. And you went from a teacher to being a marketer. So you get out of college, you go through a couple of years in the workforce as a teacher, and then you decide to go back and get your master's in marketing. How do you feel like that prepared you for what was to come after that?
I think brilliantly in many ways, because I don't feel like my brain really switched on till I started doing my master's. And I think that when because I was doing that part-time as well as working full-time. So I did that over 3 years. But, it was distance learning with some weekends on campus, but I just started thinking differently. And I think that because it was an MSc, so it had a research portion. So the whole idea of a research project and, thinking about qualitative and quantitative data and it was like suddenly I was switched on in terms of, who am I? What am I doing? What can I learn? What can I bring? What can I do? So I think, it was a brilliant grounding because you get, a generalist grounding in marketing. I was already working in a marketing position, delivering the whole lot in a small business. So it changed my life. It was brilliant. Yeah, it was great.
And when you come out, you've got your master's, and you're back into the workforce, but in a marketing capacity. And I do want to get into, eventually, and this is our core episode topics, running a boutique agency. So I eventually want to get there. Where did you start before you decided to break off on your own?
Yeah, so I was still working at the Adventure Center. So they're actually still one of my clients now, 20 years later. So I was working full time for them. So it was like putting everything into practice in terms of, all the stuff that I was learning in marketing. And then, that's where it sort of really zoned into, okay, well, we're doing small business marketing, but we're mostly doing small business digital marketing. But I'm mostly interested in small business SEO and content and local SEO. So that's where that came from. And the nice thing about all of it was it all happened in an environment where it was so agile in terms of I could do everything straight away. There was no layers or processes of things that I had to go through to actually implement stuff, especially because a lot of implementation was low cost. I just did all the things with that organization, which was a really nice grounding, I think, for then understanding, okay, well, I can bring some of this to somebody else now.
And then from there, you went into other agencies. Is that before you formed your own?
I think it's really interesting, like the start when you did your intro. So this is something that I've thought about my whole, if you can call it, career, is that there is no one path. There is no route to success, or there is no accelerator through when you decide you want to be an SEO. Like you don't go off to university and do 4 years SEO and then you do keeping up to date with your SEO, there's no body for these things. So everyone has a really, really different path. And because I had learned SEO from going, not a technical background, I was reading Jill Whalen and then I was reading Moz, and it was all, this is a long time ago. And it was, so you're completely self-taught. I wasn't a web developer, I was, a straightforward customer service marketing person. So you learn all those things and then you start saying, well, maybe I've learned it wrong and maybe I don't actually know the things. And then the agency experience is like an opportunity to sort of go out there and go, oh, right, okay, I'm going to learn the things. I'm going to learn the systems and the processes and all the secret stuff that everyone knows. And then sometimes your experience is, oh, actually, I was doing it the right way already. I've learned some things, but what I've learned is that people are making it up. It's not like there's this secret sauce and I didn't know what I was doing. It was just like, okay, yeah. So agencies, it was, brilliant to have that experience. And obviously some really accomplished, amazing people I got to work with and learn from. But yeah, it wasn't agency. That wasn't for me, especially because I live here in West Wales, in the middle of nowhere. It was like, if you want to go and work at a big agency somewhere, you're not going to be able to do that living in the middle of a coastal national park.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, COVID may change that, right?
Of course. But then by this point, I'm unemployable. I've been working for myself for too long.
Yeah, I mean, how can you go back if ever, once you've kind of branched off on your own, unless you get the offer you can't refuse.
Yeah.
For anybody that knows, I'm a mob movie fan.
Though I'll say, it seems like you're in a better position now anyway. Like, sounding where you live sounds amazing, right? So it's one of those trade-offs where now that I'm fully remote, me and my wife always kind of joke about, like, now we can just like move to the beach full time, or move to like a tropical island, or exactly. And I moved the whole family, about 800 miles south to avoid some of those winters. She's telling me we're never moving again, but I'm like, but now we can like move to Cancun or somewhere, it's just somewhere warm all day.
Yeah, because it's possible. It's shown us that remote working, is possible, and people can be productive and we can get stuff done.
Yep.
But we miss seeing people, don't we? That's one of the things is.
I agree.
Yeah, I was remote working for quite a while before the whole pandemic. So I've actually gotten used to working really closely with people, Jeff included. Some people might not know this. I've only seen Jeff in real life maybe 2 times in my life, like actually in person. And yet we've managed a podcast together because of the technology, and we work great, and we're friends, but we've only ever seen each other like twice, and we've worked at 2 companies together, which is insane. Totally crazy.
I was going to say probably like 10 years ago too.
Yeah. And it's funny that you were kind of bringing up your experience kind of going into agencies and being uncertain with yourself. I had that experience, of course, self-taught, for anybody that's listened to episode 10, where I drone on for 2 hours about my upbringing and my experience and how I got into it. Self-taught came from, I worked at a damn pet store. And I told the story a few episodes ago, how the working in a pet store was great until the day where a little girl challenged me to get the tarantula out. And I was like, nope, not doing it. Yep, can't do that. Yeah, that was a great job until that day, and then it became like uncomfortable, sweating level of job. And I
call the manager.
I fell into marketing, right? It wasn't, I never intended to be an SEO. I wanted to be a graphic designer, and I was not a very mature person and didn't take my college experience very seriously, which led me to my pet store job and my job at Staples, which I worked for 7 days a week for about 9 months in a row, and finally just reached my breaking point. And I was like, I can't do it anymore. Which then led me to a job with a weird little agency that did telemarketing on one side of the business, and on the other side of the business did regular marketing. They were selling Yahoo local listings. They were building websites, or at least trying to, back on, in the early days of WordPress. And I was so bad at the telemarketing, and luckily I had my friend was a kind of a big player at that agency, and he brought me over to his side of the business. But he basically told me, like, dude, you either learn how to build websites or you can't have a job here anymore. And when I self-taught without any experience, do you know, and this is a fun little fact, And it's ironic. The way that I learned how to build a website wasn't by searching on I went to frickin' Barnes and Noble and bought a book on HTML and CSS. That is insane in this, to think about it in 2020. But I will say that book, even still, one of the best decisions of my life, to literally go and read that book cover to cover, and I did. But then I ran into this thing, like, okay, well, my websites, they look pretty and pretty by 2006 standards, but they don't get any traffic. Well, why is that? Oh, there's this thing called SEO. And back then, as a college dropout who was just kind of very green, didn't understand the ways of the world, but made one good choice, which was that SEO for me was not something where, most businesses at that time, most professions, they required a 4-year degree or even a master's. Well, I was like, well, I don't have that. So unless I want to be just relegated to these awful jobs, maybe I need to just dive headfirst into this SEO thing. And I did, and it was a good choice. And, now I'm sitting here 15 years later doing a podcast, and things worked out for me. They worked out well. And I found something that was a differentiator and a passion point. And I know that there are people out there like, okay, this isn't 2005, 2006 anymore, but there are people out there in a situation, and SEO can still be a way. It's still a profession where enough people don't understand it that you can use it if you learn it really, really well, as a differentiator for yourself, especially if you're going through a situation where like the traditional path is not for you. That is still possible, in my opinion. And it's primarily possible because of exactly what you said. There's no university that teaches SEO classes, like even still in 2020. Now, there's a lot more available online that you can have to educate yourself than there was 15 years ago. But you can't, like, I can't go down to The Ohio State University and say, I want to get a degree in SEO. It does not exist. It boggles my mind. Like, you can get marketing degrees, but they're not for necessarily the digital marketing. So I do find that a lot of people coming out of school with marketing degrees, while they are super, super smart, not prepared to be on the front lines of, an SEO on the agency side. You can't just take those people and plug them in as your lead SEO strategist on a big account, right? They're just not prepared. And college, where, when you come out of college, you go to college to be a dentist, you come out, you're a damn dentist, right? You know what to do. You can start working right away. You come out of college in marketing and you started an agency, and sometimes they say, do you want to be a paid search person or an SEO person? And you go, I don't know. I guess I'll do SEO. I'll try that out. You are in no way prepared. You're minimally prepared, and to just not in the way that you would be prepared if you were studying another profession. So
yeah,
that's been my experience as somebody who's just been in the industry for a while and has been responsible for helping those people along in their kind of experience and helping them develop their career. It's been rare to see ones come out and who were ready to, be frontline directors of SEO or whatever big title SEOs.
Yep.
Insert your title.
I'm glad that they don't offer it in college, because it gives me a little more security.
Yeah.
No, it's one of those things that you need to learn it by doing. And I think a lot of people who come out of school with general marketing, and you're right, a lot of times you go into an agency as like a junior search person, doesn't matter whether you're on paid or SEO. And then you find out what you like between the two, and you kind of jump on one or the other. And paid search is sexier overall. Like, it's just, you're dealing with the bigger budgets. You like see instant results. There's not a lot of this. Well, it depends. like it is in SEO, like our favorite answer. And we kind of have to make our own playbooks and do it by trial and error. And lots of research. While in the paid world, there's it's instant. You made a mistake and you can switch it and fix it, and and try a little harder. So, or try things a little bit better. So that's one of the things I think lures people more towards the paid side. But SEO, I mean, I think overall is just like, at the end of the day, like, I feel like we're the mechanics that are lifting up the hood and checking the oil and checking, kicking the tires and making sure things are proper.
So Claire, you had mentioned a little bit as you had gone into these agencies, feeling like unsure of yourself, and again, last week we also made a great point. Number of years of service is not always an indication of quality, and I even myself go into situations where, like, I go onto Twitter and I'm like, these people are so much smarter than me. Like, what the hell am I doing with my career? And there are times when I'm uncertain about what to do. So that means, I guess, that I have a certain degree of imposter syndrome, and that's a very common thread throughout most of our episodes. So kind of taking us back, or even today, kind of what has been your experience with imposter syndrome and how do you battle it?
I think pretty huge experience of imposter syndrome. It's been something that's been, it's like maybe 10 years ago, we didn't have a name for it. It was just like, I feel underconfident. I don't feel I'm doing the best job. I think that other people are better than me. How can I be better? I'm letting people down, whatever it is. And then it's like, I think I sort of latched onto the term probably about 5 years ago. And I'm like, shit, yeah, I've got that thing. It's that imposter syndrome. I've definitely got that. And then I think there's always something in SEO, isn't there? It's like, I'm not good enough at this bit. I'm not good at, so for me, it was like, I was apologizing for not being a tech SEO. I was apologizing for not being technical enough. And I think one of the things is learning that you can't be all the things. Not everyone is all the things. So how do you get, I don't know. I've just gone like not full circle, because I'm amazing. I'm really brilliant. But a lot of the time I just do stuff and I'm like, I'm probably doing this okay. This is definitely good enough. And I'm probably doing this maybe better than 75% of people could do it, or 80% or whatever. You just push it up. You're like, I'm doing an absolutely fair job of this. And also, I can't do all the things. And if there's something that I can't do, I'm the quickest to put my hand up and say, do you know what? That's not my area of expertise. But do you know what I do have? I have got an amazing friend, colleague, whatever, that does that thing. And that's how you learn, isn't it? Is like being free and open, happy to learn from other people. And with the imposter syndrome thing, I think one of the biggest things I did was said, I'm going to speak at an event. I'm going to do this thing. And that was probably, what was that, 3 years ago? 3 years ago, when I pitched to speak at Brighton SEO and thought, what am I going to speak about? I'll speak about local SEO, because that's relevant and that's a nice niche and I like that. And then so suddenly you're like, oh shit, I've got to learn all the things now, everything about everything. And I think that was a turning point in terms of just thinking, do you know what? You are good enough. You're good enough. You might not be the best, but you're definitely good enough. You're meeting your clients' needs. You're exceeding their expectation, and you're doing a good job for people. So yeah, imposter syndrome's still there. It's like, you're a bit crap, or why don't you know about that thing? But you learn to rationalize, don't you? Partly. Yeah. I think that's one of the biggest things. And
go ahead.
Celebrate your achievements. I've always, like, through my whole life, done stuff and never stopped and said, like, oh, well done, Claire, that was really good. Like, I graduated, like, with a distinction with my master's, like, but I never stopped and went, oh, well done, you did really well with that. You got a distinction and you're published and you wrote a paper. Instead, I was like, what's the next challenge? What's the next thing that I'm doing? Mm-hmm. So I think one of the things is, like, just being a bit kinder to yourself. I think that's one of that's probably key, is just being a bit kinder to yourself.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I am terrible at that. Like, I have been the person who constantly, and it, for me, it runs way deeper, right? It runs all the way back to my childhood. But have always been, as it does probably with everybody, have always been the person, with the little devil kind of sitting on my shoulder going, like, you're not good enough. And even 15 years into a career where I feel like I've had a certain degree of success and by conventional means, that still happens. And I know that there are other people out there where like and for me, it is an everyday struggle every single damn day. And there are times where I see people's successes, and instead of like just being okay with other people being good, sometimes I turn that or find a way, and I don't know how it happens. It's got to be like a psychological thing where you turn that around as an indictment on myself.
Okay.
And that sucks. Don't do that, people. That's
don't do that. No, because you can't. There's always going to be someone that is better at something, and that's why you come back to who you are, who are you servicing, and what are you trying to do? What is the objective here? So it's like I'm not going to deliver a talk about Python or machine learning or there's a lot of things that I'm never going to talk about. I might become passionate about them, want to learn about them, probably not, because there's other things that I'm busy learning about. So you can't be all the things. So just concentrate on who you're trying to serve and work on serving them the best that you can.
Jake, would it help if I sent you a Screaming Frog sweatshirt?
It would help a little bit, Jeff, but
right.
It's not going to get here before Christmas.
I don't know. I can send you this one.
It's too late. You should have been thinking about my Screaming Frog sweatshirt needs before now.
I'm going to send you a certificate. I could send you, and you could print it off.
A certificate for the Jelly of the Month Club.
Just for being just clever. I am enough. I am clever. I know the things. I'm doing a good job.
And by the way, just to make me happy and because I'm feeling in the giving mood, if anybody listens to this episode and gets that reference, I will send you a sticker and maybe a certificate to the Jelly of the Month Club. I'm in the giving mood. All right. So you talked about speaking, and we had talked about what I think are some really, really important questions that go into the decision to become public in the SEO space. And good God, I've had a lot of rants about the SEO conference speaking circuit and all the things that I dislike about it. But there are some genuinely good things about it, but it can be very, very intimidating and very, very scary. So when your first pitch to speak at a major conference was 3 years ago, what made you say yes finally, and why is it important, I guess, to do things that maybe scare you a little bit?
I think especially with like there's a lot of people wanting to get into speaking, or so we just take speaking as the example. I think often the question is why do you want to do this? What for what purpose? Because that's probably quite, not everyone has. I mean, I know people use the word rock star, but it's like not everyone has to grow their personal brand and in a way that means they need to speak. Because you have to think about why are you doing this? Is it external validation? Do you need to be externally validated to feel like you're doing a good job? That's me. Do you do it because you want to become more well known in your field and you want to be thought of as an industry leading person, so you get asked to contribute, you can charge more money, you can get cherry pick your clients? I think that's one big thing, isn't it, is understanding why, because not everyone needs to speak. Why do you want to do it? What's it for? What's the objective?
Become rich and famous.
Yeah, save the world.
Yeah. And how did you, I guess, get over the part that like scared you about it? Or... The
scary bit. So, I think it was Brighton SEO, April, must have been 3 years ago. I'm really bad with timelines. So you pitch, and then then someone accepts your pitch. Oh no, you're actually going to have to do it. Were you secretly hoping? They said no, thank you. And then I did a confidence workshop with Kirsty Hulse, which you've probably heard of Kirsty. So she does really good, confidence speaking workshops. The first one she'd ever done. I had no idea that it was the first one she'd delivered. And so you just start thinking, I can do this. And then speaking at some sort of smaller events, local meetups, and how do you get over the fear? I don't know. You learn the little strategies, don't you? There's so much out there. And again, I'm sure you're going to speak about mentoring. There's so much out there in terms of, find someone that can help you with stuff, that can make those recommendations and help guide you through that. But yeah, so scariest thing I've ever done, but also the most enjoyable thing I've ever done.
So speaking of mentoring, Search or United Search, what better place if you're looking to break in? Look at that. And also women in tech SEO. Cannot understate the work that Areej, former Page 2 podcast alum, has been doing. Both of those are potential really great opportunities.
I just think I can remember just someone saying to me, don't be scared. Everyone wants you to do well. There is that thing. We are, most of the time, we're rooting for each other. We want each other to do well. So don't go out there and speak to people thinking everyone wants me to fall on my face and be shit. It's not the case, is it?
That brings me to a point I saw on Twitter, and damn it, SEO Twitter just makes me so mad sometimes I even said last week, I rarely delve into the drama of Twitter, but this one kind of got me last week. I think it was Areej herself who might have been giving a keynote, and somebody live commented while she was speaking that her keynote sucked. And come on, have a little empathy, people. Imagine yourself up there on stage. That is really damn hard to get up there, especially if you are not comfortable with public speaking, which many people aren't, to get up there and deliver a damn keynote. And she's doing so many great things for the industry anyways. I just can't believe that somebody would be that freaking rude. And I'm not saying you can't have your feelings about the quality of a keynote, but good God, have a little empathy. And if you're going to deliver that feedback, at least freaking wait until she's done. Because I can't imagine being up there in the middle of my talk and having somebody tell me I suck. How can you go forward after that? God bless her. She probably just did and killed it. But that would be incredibly distracting. And not only that, that would piss me off. I don't think I'd be able to get through it. I think I'd have to probably stop and just, I don't know what I'd do. I'd probably say something to that person F you, man. You get up here. Here.
Yeah, exactly. The feedback that, I've done some stuff, and if you're going to give someone feedback, put it into a shit sandwich, put the nice bit, then the crappy bit, and then a nice bit underneath. And it's I saw your thing and you should have said this, and this. And my feedback is, I really look forward to seeing your talk about this thing, whatever it is. It's honestly, at least think about how to deliver something in a human way that isn't going to make someone feel awful. But,
it's the world of online. They want you to feel awful because they feel awful about themselves. And
you've nailed it, Jeff. That's it, isn't it? But fortunately, we've also got lots and lots of lovely, amazing, supportive, authentic people in our industry. So
I kind of have a blinder to the hate. It's weird. It's
good for you, man.
Everyone says SEO Twitter is negative. I only read the good stuff, I think, because I just don't. If you don't have a Twitter icon or there's certain things I do to put judgment towards someone, especially in LinkedIn. If you don't have your picture, then I'm not friending you. Or if you don't, if you don't have a little blurb about yourself and a real background, at the same time, I just feel you're spam. And maybe it's so I just feel everything, 90% of things are spam anyway. So I don't really look into them, but the people that I know and I trust in the industry, I respect their decisions, or their comments way more, and I kind of just focus on those.
So we've got a lot still to cover. So let's move into the core episode topic today, which is going to be running a small boutique agency. So Jeff, I'm gonna back off. I've been doing a lot of talking today. I think people want to hear less from me and more from you and Claire.
Sure.
So you go. You go do you.
Yeah. So what, well, I think we've kind of touched on some of it, but what drove you from, trying to work at the regular, workforce to breaking out on your own? I think there's a lot of us that would love to do that. But we just don't have the guts to do it, or maybe we keep making excuses for ourselves, saying, hey, like my excuse, so like, and I feel bad that I projected on it. It's like I'm married, I have 3 kids. Like, how can I break off and do something and not have that security in there? And I don't, never really want them to feel like, oh, like I would love to do this, except they're holding me back. Like, it's never that way. It's just one of those. It's something that's on my mind all the time, where I feel like I need to make sure I'm holding my end of the bargain up, and breaking out on your own scary. So like tons of upside if things go well, and then there's the negative, which I always feel like I can get out of, but at the same time it's like it seems way more stressful at times too, and I'm sure you breaking into that would do it. But what are some of the things that went through your heads, the barriers you had, what made you finally say, like, that's it, I am now a small agency owner?
I guess I did it from the outset because, there was a geographical thing for me that I needed to do something on my own. If there had been an opportunity to work with an agency, then I might have taken it like 10 years ago. But I've been self-employed, working on my own for 11 years now. So that's quite a period of time. And I think that going freelance, going self-employed, I don't know about in the US, it's definitely a thing in the UK in the last couple of years. A lot of people have had industry experience, had agency experience, sort of built out their own profile in terms of their personal brand and what they're known for. And then they go self-employed because they want to live the dream or whatever. But obviously there are upsides and downsides of both paths, I think.
Yes.
For me, I wanted to be able to work my own hours. I wanted to be able to live where I wanted to live. And I wanted to be able to work with the types of clients that I wanted to work with. So that is, where I still am now, because I wouldn't take on a client that had a product or service that I didn't believe in. I wouldn't work with someone that didn't treat me like a human being, someone that wasn't like us, like nice people that were friendly and kind and clear with communication. And so I think that's the biggest thing for me, is picking and choosing my own clients that work in products and services that I understand, because I find it much easier to market something. I've worked for people that are just like, for example, I worked with an innovation agency last year, so that wasn't within my wheelhouse. It's like, what is this? So I can learn about new marketplaces, new products, but it's easier for me to go, oh yeah, you make gin. Yeah, I understand gin because I drink a lot of it. People that have like good,
I just made some.
Yeah, definitely. Social or environmental beliefs. People that have a market, a product or service that I believe in. It just gives me the opportunity, because I can't imagine working in an agency and someone saying, oh, here are some people that are basically raping the environment and fucking the world up for everyone. Why don't you help them sell stuff to people that don't need the stuff? I would be a bit like, no, I don't want to do that. So yeah.
No, and I think helping, again, I think you focus more on small, medium-sized businesses, and I think we touched on this last week, but the idea of just being able to help, I'm thinking if I broke off and started my own thing, and say I was, I worked at a hair salon, and I went to break. Like, I know about cutting hair. I don't know. I don't have any hair. That's a bad example, but exactly. I started a beard grooming place.
I like that. You should do it.
But you break off there, like, you don't know about marketing and search, so like you really put your trust into someone there, and at the same time, they don't know a lot about it. So a lot of people, there's a lot of scammy and untrustworthy people who break off and just make that money. A lot of agencies, like they're kind of like churn and burn agencies that I really dislike. I might call some out once in a while, but in general, like, there's really, well, I've seen it a lot where it's just, they're charging someone, $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
And they're getting like a blog post and 3 links, and that's
horrible. I hate that.
it's not really like helping that business out. And
No.
that's where, maybe like, oh, great. Like I rank for a certain keyword that doesn't drive any traffic, but as a small business owner, I might not know about that, might not know what those correct marketing things are. So I really like applaud you and like doing it the right way. And then going after industries that you're passionate about definitely makes sense. Like I tried to help a small coffee place around me that does coffee roasting. I was going to them right before the pandemic broke out, and they were great. So like I tried to give them some like keyword research, and these are some of the things, like here's your competitors. Like, you might not even know you had competitors down the street, because to me, like I buy roasted coffee from them, but there's coffee shops that sell roasted coffee that might not be like, might be local, but they might have, not be that way. So I was really trying to show them like, here's the marketing side of this that you're not really doing well. Like you really like had the energy to start this and go there, and you make amazing like rare coffee blends that I love. So I was trying to help them out, and I don't know what they did with that, because I'm not in the business of doing that. So I just kind of did a quick audit, pushed things through with them. And just, they were super thankful on it, because it's like, I did it for free just to help them out. But I also didn't want them to run out to somebody during a pandemic and just get, bulldozed over with $2,000 charges that weren't really doing anything for them. So. Cool. So, I mean, let's see, I'm trying to think of what to ask. So do you have any favorite clients? I think you said you've been with some for a long time. But like, what are some of your favorite clients that you work with, and maybe some of the things that you've, done to really help them out?
It feels funny when you name people's actual names. Anyone
you don't need to name them, but
anyone that follows me on Twitter knows that I work for an attraction here, which is an adventure park and a zoo called Folly Farm. So it's just like, right, so describe your ideal client. It's like, oh, well, someone that has baby rhinos and like it has the, it's just like, you're never going to be short on content, are you? Here are some meerkats. Here is a baby rhino. Here is this. Here is that. And they're brilliant. So it's just like, content gold. Great. Plus they're awesome, plus they're customer focused, plus they provide a brilliant experience, plus they're great organization, like always inward investment, blah, blah, blah. They're just amazing. So I don't work with anyone I don't like, which is really nice for me. Just for, on the thinking about like being, self-employed and finding your niche and understanding who you're serving. I've managed to stay in business for, or was it 10 years? And then like coronavirus, COVID-19, and I realized, do you know what? It wasn't such a great idea only to work with people in hospitality and tourism, because I basically lost 20%. What was I down to? 20% of my average income. So I took a huge hit in February. In terms of shit, maybe I'm, I had no client, I had nothing, so that was, when you're working with small businesses or when you're setting yourself up, it's like understanding, okay, well, I hadn't actually thought about what a pandemic would do to my customer base. I
don't think many people did.
No. So that was a biggie for me. And I know for a lot of people, but just it's that sort of thinking about putting all your eggs in one basket. So that was an issue, definitely, for me.
Were there any clients that you took on and realized right away that this wasn't going to be a good partnership?
Yes.
You don't have to name names. How did you handle that?
How did I handle it? Can I just tell you about a nice thing to do with COVID? A nice thing to do with COVID. I know that sounds like it's not going to work, but when that happened, when the shit hit the fan, I can just remember a friend of mine, Dan, going, why don't you tweet something? You've got a great community. You're a really experienced marketer. You are, nice things like you are a catch. You will be good for people. And I think I wrote this tweet, and it was just shared. And I had all these DMs, and loads of people coming to me saying, can you just do a quick audit on this? Can you do this? Will you try this? So suddenly I went from having zero to all of these people offering me work. And that was amazing.
That's
that
great.
was like, yeah, it made me cry quite a lot, actually, thinking about all the nice people that we had in our community. And then this sounds like a bit of a segue, but it is a bit of a segue. So one of those was Bright Local that said, will you write a course for us? So that's another thing that I'm really excited about, is like in terms of, okay, I can actually say well done to myself for staying in business for 11 years and sort of riding a pandemic, and still, being able to get clients, service clients, do my own marketing, build my own personal brand, write content, have a website, all of those things. I do those things for myself. So I've written a course for the new academy on Bright Local, which is called How to Land Your First Local SEO Client. Nice. So when I was writing it, I was like, I actually know some things that might be useful for someone else that is going to set up on their own. So we broke that down into, I think it's 8 lessons: defining your services, how much will you charge, positioning yourself, marketing yourselves, how to pitch, stuff like that. And that was wicked, just writing that all up and going, I've learned these things in these 10 years. So that's a pretty exciting thing that came out of that time. And with the clients that I got, it was just like, I was happy to do the work, and I really enjoyed the work. It was a little bit of local SEO stuff, but I just realized that, okay, maybe I wouldn't have chosen you just because I don't tend to work in like a very spammy environment. And you seem like you would be happier with someone that was, didn't want to do solid marketing that's based on longevity and staying, within the guidelines. You don't want that. And that's what I do. So maybe we're not a great match. I think that was I had a couple of those.
Yeah, I had a similar experience of, when the pandemic hit, I was like one of the casualties that got laid off during it. But just by posting that on Twitter, like SEO Twitter, and this is maybe why I look at it more positively, like so many people reached out, and I felt like I had interviews with so many companies just from me being open and honest on Twitter, and not trying to, play it down by any means. I was just like, hey, I'm looking for work. And so many came through, and it was great.
Brilliant. Well done. That's excellent.
Yeah.
Great.
I mean, everyone, like people that I didn't even expect, like, that I feel like were, with some of that imposter syndrome, like, oh, they wouldn't care about that. Like reaching out and like setting me up with interviews, or like, I've heard about this company, and so many different, like I know Alita with her remoters group had like a giant spreadsheet of all like remote employment opportunities. And it was great because I just would go down that list every day and send out, resumes, and it ended up working out really great in my world now. But at the same time, it was a scary time. No one knew what to expect. So.
So I want to get in one last question, and then I want to move on to the Twitter questions, because we got a lot of Twitter questions. We've got 2 carryovers from last week, but I do want to kind of close the book on running a small boutique agency. So as you kind of started it over a decade ago, what have been your biggest unexpected challenges of running an agency?
I always feel like that's a very grand thing to say, like running an agency, but I guess that's what it is.
A consultancy, agency, whatever you want to call it.
Just me. Unexpected challenges, did you say?
Besides COVID, yes.
Oh gosh. I think it's probably all the sort of internal struggles that you have. Those are always quite unexpected, with what am I doing? What am I trying to do? What is the purpose of this thing that I have created? And, a lot of people, so for me, that's been the biggest struggle in terms of, is it about salary, or is it about the number of hours that I want to work? Or is it about where I want to live? Or is it about what I want people to think of me, or the relationships that I want to have with my clients or with the people within my industry? So it's probably been stuff like that. I mean, that's probably not very helpful, but the course and the bits and bobs that I've you know, when someone goes in and goes, I want to be self-employed, I want to do this, they don't, I already knew, because I'd been running small businesses, what it is to run a small business. So when you are running a small boutique agency, you're also running a small business. So I knew the stuff about, well, you need to deliver the services, and you need to market yourself, and you need to do your accounts, and you need to do, what about professional development? Where the bloody hell do you fit all that in as well? So I sort of like to think that I had predicted those things. Well done, me.
Good job.
Good job. Good job. All right. So hopefully, if anybody out there is thinking about breaking off and forming your own consultancy or a small agency, whatever you want to call it, maybe some of that advice was hopefully pretty helpful for you if you're thinking about making that transition. But I do want to get into the Twitter questions. So I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's a record for us. You know, we usually, we get 2 or 3, a little bit like screaming into the void, trying to get people to ask questions on Twitter. But this week, because of Claire, because of obviously, and some of our questions are more facetious because Claire has some super huge supporters in the industry. I think we'll have some more like haha questions, but some serious questions. So we'll kind of intermix the two. Okay, so first question. This one stems from last week, and we ran out of time, so we carried it over to this week. Is from Mark Alves, former sticker winner, I will say. So just as we're evaluating who gets to win the T-shirt this week, just know Mark's won a sticker. So just keep that in mind. Sticker's not the same as a T-shirt. That being said, he's a former winner. Imagine a local social services organization with a few offices. Some services are performed on-site, some remotely, and some out in the community. Is this scenario a candidate for a Google My Business listing or listings, or is a knowledge panel a better approach? Thanks, and I'll hang up and listen.
Okay, that sounds like a difficult one. What did you say? Social? What was the vertical? What was the niche?
Yeah, I don't think he said it. It just said local social. Well, you did say a local social services organization that
what
has
does that mean? What's local social services?
I'm trying to think of a good example. Maybe like Jeff. Maybe maybe somebody that like helps.
Asking like a healthcare
like
professional
healthcare,
or a therapist or something.
Yeah, therapist.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, so let's just imagine this is a place that has a few offices.
Local service.
Where where some of the services that they do are performed on site, some are performed remotely, and some are performed out in the community.
Yeah.
So what he's wanting to know is a good approach for that organization with their handful of offices and their kind of varying approaches to service. Should they put that information in their GMB listing, or should they focus more on their knowledge panel if they have one?
I think so. GMB listing, because they have like a bricks and mortar location that makes in-person contact. So if they've got, he says there's multiple locations. So hooray, even more opportunity to get visibility, isn't it? So have those lovely listings. If they've got the opportunity, I don't know what you get with because it depends on the primary category. Then I'd be listing out the models of service delivery, probably in my products. If they haven't got that, I'd be doing it in my services. And then I'd be making sure that it was all really clear on my individual landing pages for each of those locations on my website, what my service delivery model was and how I've pivoted that in terms of COVID. But that sounds like a lovely setup because, wow, you're doing everything for everyone, aren't you? So it's like you've got bricks and mortar location, you're also a service area business. So you can have banging landing pages, and you can also have brilliant GMB profiles for all of those.
Excellent. So next question is from Kyle Rose at Rose_KW. He works at Search Discovery. So Kyle's awesome. 2020 has been extremely tough on small businesses. What type of local strategies have risen to the top this year to help mom and pop stores compete?
Ooh, I think that a lot of them have hopefully discovered what GMB is and what it can do for them. So I think that this has been the year of, okay, you need to basically, Google My Business is like a separate CMS, isn't it? So you need to learn how to use it, because this is, the whole Google is your homepage, blah, blah, blah. You need to make sure that GMB, everything is filled out. Use the COVID post, or don't use the COVID post, use a normal post, but make sure you've got information on your website that covers all of how you're operating. So then you can link to that. But I think, making the most of Google My Business in this time when people are, we've got near me is going up again. People are they want to see the latest information. They want to feel safe. They want to understand health and safety. It depends what your niche is. But GMB. But not because I'm like always a GM, I'm not like GMB is everything. But you need to be using that as a small business for sure.
Absolutely. And I can attest, I had a recent experience and it was COVID related. So I went to a local coffee shop who offers mobile ordering ahead. And in their mobile app, I was allowed to complete my mobile order. I went to the store and I gave them my money and they were closed. Do you know how I was so mad? I was like, son of a bitch, I just gave you like $10 and you're not open and I'm not getting my food. What the hell?
It's not good. And then think about what you're doing. Think about what you're doing to your review profile. That's one of the biggest things is let's get all of our ducks in a row. Let's understand how we're going to offer this product, how we're going to pivot, and then let's write that somewhere so everyone knows.
Yeah. And I got to be honest, like I gave them a pass because of course it's COVID, and trying to run a local business during COVID is probably way more insane. So I gave them a pass, and I just attributed it to, hey, I go there all the time. Enjoy your $10 tip that I just gave you. I was like, I'm not even going to bother calling customer service and trying to get my money back, because like they take care of me. So I I was mad for a second, and then I was like, all right, they just got a $10 tip. Okay, so from Amanda Jordan, last week's guest at Amanda T. Jordan, I want to know what it's like to be so amazing. Please ask her for me. So what's that like?
Amanda, like in terms of Amanda being on my radar, like, because everyone's got people that they follow and that they look up to that are just brilliant. So Amanda is like someone that is definitely like putting herself out there and build, I keep saying personal brand, but you know what I'm saying when I say that, she's putting herself out there, she's sharing her knowledge, but apart from that, she's doing that in a really personable, amazing way. So basically I just have to send that love back to her, because she's like super clever, and I'm always asking her loads of annoying questions about things, and she's brilliant.
So your head is, I think, probably going to continue to get big as we kind of finish out these questions. So, and to the person that asked this question, your Twitter handle is, I think, the way that I'm going to pronounce your name, because it makes sense. So your Twitter handle is @HowdyDoody, but your name is spelled DOUGHT, which sounds, I guess, in the US like Doughty. So I'm going to say Kim Doody. Hopefully I've pronounced your name right. So this question's from Kim. Just where the hell does she get off being that funny and amazing? The nerve.
Like, it's just like Kim, like when we talk about, you talk about your relationship, your friendship, the two of you, and the fact that you've only met twice in real life. I am like incredulous at the number of people that I consider like really good friends, like really good people that if you met them in real life, you would like love them, and you would be like, you're amazing, you inspire me, you're amazing. So yeah, Kim's like one of those people, really. So thanks, but I love you.
So next, so we got 6 more. Next question is Jess from Jessica Yu @Jess4002. What do you and this is a serious question. What do you think is the biggest SEO myth?
this is, you probably hate me because I go a bit navel gazing on all of these things rather than, keywords aren't a thing anymore. It's just like the SEO myth is that you have to be everything, or that you have to be a technical SEO to be an SEO. That's like, yeah.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. From Nikki Mosier, another Page 2 podcast alum, at Nikers85. Yeah, Nikki's awesome. I would like to know how to be like Claire when I grow up. How can we be like you when we all grow up and get our big boy and girl jobs?
I think I told her in the response to that, I said, repress all your feelings till you're 36 and then have some intensive therapy.
Yeah, that's funny. My in-laws always, when my wife is complaining about this or that, they're famous for going, tell it to your therapist. Oh, all right. And that's definitely
also, I love Nikki. I love Nikki. Yeah.
So this is an interesting question. The next two. So from Jeff Kennedy, at Jeff Kennedy, cold water swimming, isn't it a bit cold?
Yes, Jeff, it is.
Very cold. From Miriam Ellis. And this is actually, I think, an interesting question. I'm curious to hear the answer to this. At Miriam_Ellis_, are there tide pools on your swimming beaches? If so, what sorts of sea life live in them? That's an interesting question.
Thank you, Miriam. There are, my thing that I really love doing that some people think is a bit weird is cold water swimming in the sea here. So it's about 6 to 10 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm centigrade, aren't I?
Yes.
Yeah, 6 to 10, which is about 42 Fahrenheit. Is that right? Does that sound right?
Sounds
anyway,
good.
So it's it's good. Mental health. It's very good for your mental health, and it's also hilarious, and it's a nice way to be in nature, if that makes sense. So yeah, there are tidal pools, and so you can pretend you're a mermaid, so you can do mermaiding in pools if you find them. But yeah, there's loads of stuff like anemones, limpets, barnacles, lots of things in the rock pools. So yes, there are.
Nice.
Cool. Two more questions. So from Hannah Lily Stowe, at Hannah Lily Stowe, Stowe with an E. I would like to know how you are such a goddess, and what does looks like we've got a typo. And what does happen when you are 15? That's maybe a weird type. Let's just go. How are you such a goddess?
Okay. Well, there is Hannah is the daughter of a friend of mine, and I think when you're 15 is the thing where every time she had a birthday, what's she now, 20 something? Every time she had a birthday, I was like, oh, you know what happens when you're 14, don't you? You know what happens when you're 15, don't you? So she just like isn't sure what happens when you're 15. So that's the story of that.
Well, what does happen when you're 15?
Well, I can't remember. It was so long ago. Like, what happened? Some stuff. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, for 15-year-old boys, and I'm sure for 15-year-old girls, my answer is lots of uncomfortable things. Last question, and then we've got to pick a winner. Who is worthy to have a Page 2 podcast t-shirt besides just me and Jeff? From Marianne Sweeney. Yes, and you, at Miss Sweeney, all one word. What are you reading for professional development?
I thought this was really so. It's Marianne. It's Marianne, isn't it?
Marianne.
Yeah. So she followed that up with saying what her areas of expertise were, and I was like, like, you're really, really clever. So for my professional development, so I've got a big list of resources on my website which needs updating of like all the people in local SEO that I follow. So I just read and listen and do the testing and do all of those things. But it's sort of managing in terms of like timetabling your own learning. Is that an hour a day or is it a day a week? What's important to you? What delivers the most value? So that's how I've managed it in terms of I think we're in an industry where things, there are people like, it changes so quickly, it changes every day, but like the tenets of marketing remain the same, don't they? So, we need to understand what people buy, how they buy it, what they need. And then, so yeah, it depends what you want to learn, isn't it? But there's always someone curating content somewhere in your niche, is what I have found. So you need to find out who that person is and then read all the things that they share.
Excellent answer. So out of 10 questions, so we've got Mark with his local question. We've got Kyle with his 2020 rising to the top local question. We've got Jessica with her biggest myth. We've got Marianne with professional development. And then we've got Amanda, Nikki, Jeff, Hannah with their personal flattery, and Miriam with Hannah with personal flattery plus inside joke, and Miriam with her interesting sea life question. So out of all of those questions, who is worthy of winning that t-shirt? Dun, dun, dun.
I swear it should probably be, I think, someone that like wrote some. I mean, the people that wrote lovely things, that's really kind, and I love them. But 1, 2, or 10, or the other person that thought of a good question too. So not the I love Claire's.
Claire's. All right. So
no, I love Claire's.
No, I love Claire's. All right. So let's do the personal development question. I think that Jeff, what do you think?
Sounds great. Yeah.
All right. And Kyle's just going to have to, since he works with me, he's going to have to figure out another way to bribe me for a t-shirt or a sticker. All right. Yeah. No. So Marianne, if you are listening, you are the winner of a Page 2 podcast t-shirt, and we will be reaching out to you to get your address and send that along its way. So we need to close out the episode. So Jeff, take it home.
Yeah. What words of advice would you give to a person that's just getting into SEO?
Find a mentor. The end.
And any specific mentors you would recommend?
Well, it depends what you want to learn, isn't it? But that's why I think there is a bit to be said about it's nice to like raise this idea of mentorship, but you need to understand what you're asking of someone and what you can deliver in return. That's part of it. Otherwise, because if you can imagine that if 20 people reached out to you tomorrow and said, can you give me an hour of your time once a month? What would that look like? Would you be able to support them in their learning?
Yeah.
Probably not. Yeah.
That's a big ask. Not just it takes a lot of courage to reach out to somebody to ask for help, but it's a lot on the mentor too. So
for sure. But there's these amazing programs. That's the thing, is that there are lots of different programs now where people are making themselves available to help people. So definitely looking at United Search, looking at Women in Tech SEO, or whatever that thing is, you find something where people are putting themselves out into the forum and saying, I'm happy to give some time to people.
Absolutely. So Claire, where can people find you?
Twitter at Claire Carlile. I'm on there too much. And what's your website? And I was going to ask you earlier with the course that you're developing, what is the link to the Bright Local Academy course when it's available, if you have it? I think it is. I think it's on a subdomain of Bright Local. I think it's academy.brightlocal.com. And then if you just do a Google for the Claire Carlile marketing, then you will find my website.
Awesome. All right, Claire, thank you. I know we ran about 5 minutes over, but I do appreciate you taking the time to tell your story and give advice and kind of share your experiences very candidly. It was another great episode of the Page 2 podcast, and we definitely thank you so much for coming on. And now because we record on Fridays, we're sending you off to the weekend. And Jeff and I, because you're across the pond, we got full work days.
I'm off today, so.
Oh, Jeff is off today.
I'm about to go play some golf.
Yeah. So for those of you that still are, you're hearing this, you're going to be hearing this on Monday. We're getting very close to the holidays. So hope this episode brightens your day just a little bit, and have a great work week. And again, Claire, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. It was really nice to speak with you.